Doesn't come as a big surprise, too much of a surprise, but we're going next to Rhiannon Mackie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Young people are advocates, change makers and activists. We have seen a growing rise in the levels of concern amongst young people around environmental crises, in particular climate change, with over 59% of young people globally reporting very high levels of anxiety induced by climate change. Here in Aotearoa, our youth are no different, with the climate crisis a common talking point amongst children as young as 8 or 9. And yet our domestic climate policy fails to take these perspectives into any real consideration, with the result that the voices of the youth of Aotearoa New Zealand are not present domestically or internationally. Personally, I have been expected to speak on behalf of the youth of an entire nation, fully aware that my experiences are not representative of the diverse range of perspectives that should be reflected in these spaces. And that stems back to us seated here in this House. When we do not enable our youth to become engaged, informed and active in these spaces, of course they are going to be absent. They cannot do what they have no ability to do. We have an obligation to act to change this, to properly support our youth to be engaged and active in environmental policy space, such as through engagement with a wide range of young people and providing funding support to for youth, by youth environmental initiatives that will engage our youth with political decisions. We must ensure that our international environmental policy mandates are determined through thorough and meaningful consultation with those most affected by the triple planetary crisis of biodiversity loss, climate change and pollution. Young people make up over 40% of this world's population, and we will experience the impacts of policy decisions around the environment for the rest of our lives. Why should our voices not be heard? We must prioritise youth voices when we are consulting on any and all policy, and adapt our methods of engagement to ensure that this is the case. Not only this, but we must fund our young people, allowing them to self-mobilise and to build their capacity to engage with our environment. This is a critical investment in the future of our society. We must have designated targeted funding directed specifically towards supporting youth to engage with youth-led environmental initiatives. Our youth are too often left behind in these conversations without the necessary capacity building to enhance their ability to make change and build a better world. Yet we know that we have the ability to do that. If we recognise this and support our youth to grow and to make our voices heard, we are building a more democratic, a more inclusive, and ultimately a more sustainable society. Our youth are ready and willing to make change. They are waiting impatiently in the wings for their time to lead, and Mr. Speaker, it is high time we gave them the ability to engage in domestic and international environmental policy in a way which is meaningful and ongoing. Mr. Speaker, the youth of today are not only the leaders of the future, but leaders in the environmental field today of their own right, and it is high time we recognise this. Thank you.
Members, before I call the next speaker, can I